Thanks, everyone. We're right on item 3, Title VI Policy and Meeting Procedures. SIMPO complies with the Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and related non-discrimination statutes and regulations in all programs and activities. Members of the public may review the SIMPO Title VI plan and submit a self-identification survey by accessing the SIMPO website. A reminder to those attending the meeting, please keep your line on mute until you wish to speak. This meeting is available for public viewing on the SIMPO YouTube page. Oh, there we go. So moving on to item 4, we have a call to the public. And normally we don't have much, or we haven't had much, but what's it look like this time, clerk?
Yes, today, Mr. Chair, we have a few guests who would like to say a few words. We have Chairman Sheehy from Lake Havasu MPO, Board Member Lane, and the new director, Justin Hembry.
All right. Well, welcome, folks. Are they on the phone or?
They are being promoted to panelists as we speak.
All right, here we go. Vinny, do you know these guys?
I do know them, and I'm extremely nervous because I'm not sure why these names of my past are appearing. And as far as I know, I left the books in order. I did everything I was supposed to before I left, so I'm nervous at this point.
All right. Well, welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you. It took a few minutes to get logged in here because we had to go from hiding as members of the public to being members of the panel. So Mayor Sheehy, do you want me to start?
Yes, please.
All right. So for those of you that don't know us, our mayor of Lake Havasu, Cal Sheehy, is here. Myself, my name's David Lane. I'm a council member, and we are both on the Lake Havasu MPO. We used to be Vinny's boss until he became a quitter and decided to move on. And we also have Justin Hembry, who took Vinny's place. So, Vinny, I understand a package was delivered to you.
That is correct. Which
you may open. You had strict instructions not to open that package. So now you can open the package. And while you're opening it, I'll just say a few words here. So Vinny was our director here at the MPO for quite a while, and we've been wanting to get over and attend your all meeting in purpose. Or in person, and we thought we were going to be able to do that today, but unfortunately things have changed due to health reasons across the board. So we thought we'd join in via Zoom. I also should remember that one of your members, Gary Knight, is also a member on our MPO board as well. And so we had bought this for Vinny to give to him. And normally when somebody leaves a position like this, we'll have a meeting and, everybody that he's worked with, we'll hand him a plaque and say a few words and, talk to him about what a quitter he is and all that. But over the years, one of the things that we've learned and one of the things that we like to do is actually make a presentation with his new employees or new employers and talk about what an asset he was to us. And kind of let you know how much we appreciated him. You can hold that up there, Vinny, once you're done reading it so everybody can see it. But it's just a plaque that says thank you for your service here. When Vinny came here, Lake Havasu did not have a public transportation system. And one of the things that he did through the MPO was to do a transit study. And because of that, we were actually able to put together a transit plan. In fact, I saw the first bus/van today on the road transporting our citizens from point A to point B. So we truly appreciate that. A couple other things, he did a bicycle and pedestrian safety plan, and he brought the Rural Transportation Summit to Lake Havasu. And for any of you that attended, you know what a success it was. So we just wanted to come on, take a couple minutes of your meeting, say, Vinny, you did a great job while you were here. A great friend. We really were happy that you and Deb were able to be part of our community here. And Justin has taken over. He's running with both feet, filling them shoes, but he's doing a good job. And I'm sure he'll do just as good as you did. But thank you so much for your time and for everything that you've done. And Mayor, I'll hand it back to you.
Yeah, thank you. Vinny, thank you for your leadership and your guidance in the years that you were here in Havasu City. Your mark is definitely going to be made here, and we appreciate all that you did for us, and we wish you the best in your new role. Thank you very much.
And I'd like just to add real quick, since I've come on board into the planning world back in 2015 with WACOG, Vinny has been an excellent friend, colleague, and mentor. And we still have our conversations, weekly and monthly. So it's definitely a cherished relationship. And then one other thing to add, I would like to thank Allison McCarthy for helping put this together and keeping it such a secret. Thank you so much, Allison. We really appreciate it.
Nice. So it seems like your loss is certainly our gain. So we appreciate that.
Absolutely. But his nickname now is Quitter. So don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to call him Quitter.
Fair enough. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Enjoy your
Thank
meeting.
you.
Thank you, folks.
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm humbled by it. Thank you all very, very much. Wow. Thank you.
Allison, we have anything else?
No, that's all for now.
All right, moving on. Item 5, consideration and possible action to approve the June 16th, 2021 Executive Board regular meeting minutes. We've all had a chance to review. If we're good with them, I'll just take a motion.
Mr. Chair, move to approve.
Can I get a second?
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Passes. Item 6, Simpo Administrator Report. Vinny, take it away.
Mr. Chairman, if I can ask of you, item number 12 is the RTAC, Rural Transportation Advocacy Report by Kevin Adam. He has another obligation. If you could put him at this time would be helpful, please.
Sounds good. Kevin, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you, Mayor. Hello, everyone. Obviously, a lot continues to go on in the legislative world regarding transportation. It continues to be one of the most dominating parts of the agenda back at the Capitol. And there are really two ongoing measures that do appear to have merged. The first is that the federal transportation programs typically run on a 5-year authorization cycle. We're currently on a 1-year extension of the FAST Act that is set to expire at the end of September. So we need to get reauthorization done. But then on top of that, there's been a big push for there to be a major infrastructure investment package that would be more one-time in nature and really do a lot as far as taking a bite out of the backlog that has basically accumulated over the last couple of decades. And of course, anything is just extremely difficult to get through Washington. Right now, I think if you look at the House, Senate, and the administration, there are challenges when it comes to all three. Probably the biggest one is the Senate, which is currently split on a partisan basis, 50-50. And the fact that for most legislation, you need 60 votes to consider the bill and 60 votes to make a motion to close the debate and actually vote on it. It was, better known as the filibuster. And so getting 60 votes in the Senate is the big challenge to most of anything back there. And what has occurred over the last couple of months is a bipartisan group of senators, basically led by 5 Republicans, 5 Democrats, with Arizona's Senator Sinema taking the lead on the Democrat side. They were able to reach an agreement on an infrastructure package, which includes reauthorization through 2026, but also includes some substantial increases in infrastructure investment over that time period. So it's roughly a 1.2 trillion package. And that includes a continuation of a lot of existing investment levels, not just for transportation, but other infrastructure as well. It does include 550 billion, or I should say 550 billion of that is new spending on top of the baseline levels. And of that 550, roughly half of it, 274 billion, is going to the Department of Transportation. So you're looking at significant increases for highways and roads, for transit, for rail, and for airports, and the airline industry in that matter. For highway, I'll start with the highways. They are looking at some significant boosts to the existing formula funding. That's the discretionary funding that comes into the state so that ADOT, the regions, and in some circumstances, the locals can program and prioritize that funding. If you look specifically at what Arizona would receive, this current year for what was apportioned to Arizona for highway programs, and apportionment is basically the starting number that you get, and there are some adjustments that occur, but typically you're looking at receiving roughly 95% of that funding ultimately. But we're currently at about 800 million, I believe 810 million that Arizona received this current year. Next year, that would increase by 169 million. And by year 5, this does incrementally increase every year. By year 5 in 2026, we'd be receiving 250 million more than we currently are. So that's a $250 million increase to highway programs in Arizona. And that includes the surface transportation block grants. That's funding that the regions receive a portion of so that you can program and select your own projects. That includes safety funding, and it includes planning funding, which is such a huge part of all of particularly the small MPOs budgets across the state. So, that's I think badly needed, but that's not the only source of highway funding. We're also going to see a very dramatic increase in the competitive grant programs at the federal level. 105 billion would be appropriated over the next 5 years just for competitive grants. And just to put that a little bit into perspective, I think the two big grant programs that most of you are probably familiar with are the infra grants and then the RAISE grants, which is each administration has branded it differently. It started out as Tiger and then went to Build and is now RAISE. So for RAISE and infra, in a good year, nationwide, we would get about 2 billion that would be distributed. If you divide 105 billion by 5 years, that's over 20 billion a year. So that's a massive increase, and so there will be many new programs, which will have to get all of the specifics and the criteria and the process for applying. But there's one specifically for rural America. There's another one for safety. And then there's also going to be substantial increases for that build and for that infra program that already exists. So I'll certainly keep you in the loop as all of that comes out. But from a percentage perspective, there's even going to be a larger increase in transit funding available. And then there'll be a massive increase for rail across the country, as well as additional funding for airport development. So where we are is this bill did pass the Senate a couple of weeks ago. And again, I think that was the largest challenge. If you look at all of the hurdles and obstacles that the bill needs to go through to be enacted. And because this bipartisan agreement was also done in coordination with the White House, we've already got the president on board as well. So the one remaining factor is the House. And that is not without challenges. I think the House is basically going to have to, for the most part, take the Senate bill as is. They're not going to have the opportunity to go in and provide their own amendments to much degree, because even just a little change in it would unravel this very fragile compromise, this bipartisan compromise that was accomplished in the Senate. And I'm sure that's not going to go over too well with a lot of House members, considering they just passed their own version of a transportation bill just before July 4th. And so for the most part, they're probably not going to be able to have that considered. We'll see how it goes. But I think that this is very politically viable. And it does appear that there seems to be momentum and a fairly high degree of confidence that this is actually, that it is going to pass. Now, because reauthorization is needed by the end of September, I fully expect that we will see something by then. House is currently in recess. They go back August 23rd. So I'd say within the next couple of weeks to a month and a half, we could see this actually become law. And so with that, happy to answer any questions.
Mr. Chair, this is Board Member Knight. All right,
Go for it, sir.
I have a question for Kevin.
Absolutely.
Kevin, on the state level, I know there have been some lawsuits filed challenging the budget reconciliation process that the legislature used to pass most of our transportation earmark bills. Are they going to be affected? Is that going to have any effect on them, or is the challenge more focused on something else in the legislation?
Yeah, sure, Gary. There's not going to be a legal impediment, but that is part of the political challenge with the House. You know, I don't know if you remember, the president had the larger America Recovery Plan proposal, and that was about 4.5 trillion. So it included the hard infrastructure, the traditional, not just the roads, but the sewers and the energy grid. And that is really what this 1.2 trillion package is. And they've separated that from, I guess, what you would consider to be the softer capital, like funding for training, free community college, workforce development, subsidized childcare. Those were made completely separate from the hard infrastructure. And they are going to use what you mentioned, the budget reconciliation method of getting that through, because they know that they can only do that on a purely partisan level. And so typically you're basically able to use one budget reconciliation bill a year, and it's designed, it has to be budget oriented, but if you make changes in programs that impact the previously approved budget, that's your opportunity to use it. And so that softer capital part of what I mentioned, they're going to use the budget reconciliation process to try to push that through. But that is separate from this infrastructure package that includes the transportation that I'm talking about. No, they're talking about getting that through in the purely traditional way. It already passed the Senate 69-30. And so basically it would just need a simple majority in the House, but it's not using that partisan budget reconciliation process. It is separate.
Well, actually, what I was really speaking to is on the state level. Our state legislature used the budget reconciliation, and most of the earmark funds for transportation were passed in the budget. In that respect, and we've got some challenges in court now in the state, challenging their ability to do that.
Gary, in budget reconciliation has a very different meaning at the federal versus the state level. I'm very skeptical that there will be any successful challenge to what the state legislature done. It's a long held practice, in one where essentially if you get a majority of the House and the majority of the Senate to vote for a budget and the governor doesn't veto it, it becomes enacted, provided there's no referendum to challenge, where the public has the ability to go in and challenge. And so it did pass the House and Senate with majority votes and was enacted by the governor. So while earmarking is not the practice that we are advocating, it's been a long held practice, and I'd be very surprised if there was any sort of successful legal challenge to it.
Good. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Anybody else? Awesome. Kevin, thank you, sir.
Appreciate it. I hope to see you guys in person here sometime in the near future, but and Vinny, thanks for moving me up on the agenda, and Chairman, thank you for that. And hope to see you all soon.
Nice. Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
Move on, item 7, Title VI non-discrimination training. Vinny?
Actually, I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, if you can go back to item number 6, please.
Oh, so I'm sorry, yes. Back to the administrator report.
Yes, just one brief announcement or update. The Rural Transportation Summit is coming up in October. Allison did send out information to all of you as the executive board. Just a note, due to COVID, the summit last year, the conference was canceled altogether last year. It's remained in limbo this year, but we are moving forward. Traditionally, for those of you that have participated, we've really grown this event to be over 400 people that bring the elected officials and staff together with the state legislative body to try and move forward on transportation funding policy and other subjects. This year, it's going to be by invitation only. It'll only include about 100 people at most. It'll be in the city of Maricopa at the Auction Casino. And at this time, it is limited to the MPO-COG executive boards and the MPO-COG staffs at this point. So my apologies to our TAC staff and committee and others that would have traditionally participated, but it's a much smaller group. We are, again, inviting state legislators to join us. And the biggest topic at the summit will, again, be pursuing one-time funding for Greater Arizona in the amount of $50 million. So it will be a very key time. So please follow up with Allison and myself as a board if you are able to attend, and we'll get you registered for it. It is October the 13th and the 14th. The reception is Wednesday evening, and then it's 2/3 of the day on Thursday. So that's all I have, Mr. Chair, if there's any questions or comments.
All right. Now we move on to item 7. I'm sorry, someone have something?
The only comment I might have is that the State Transportation Board meeting follows on Friday in Casa Grande. It will be virtual. It'll be in person for the board members, but virtual for the public, as I understand it. But anyway, more information on that as it becomes available.
Awesome. Thanks, Gary. So now we're on Title VI non-discrimination training.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to introduce Joanna Lucera from the Arizona Department of Transportation Civil Rights Office. Just a heads up to the board, this is going to lead into our next action item. As an MPO, we are required to have a Title VI non-discrimination plan, which also includes a limited English proficiency plan and a public involvement plan. One of the requirements of receiving federal funds is not only to have this document, but that from time to time, we as staff, you as a board, and the TAC go through moments of training. And Joanna's just going to go through this in about 10 minutes or less, and just let you know about the program, let you know about the plan. And then after Joanna, your next action item will be to approve our Title VI plan, which I can explain more when we get there. But I'd like to introduce Joanna Lucera, if you can unmute yourself and go ahead and go forward with your presentation, please.
Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And I should have done that. Sorry. I didn't even think. Okay. So thank you, everybody. So my name is Joanna Lucero. I'm with the ADOT Civil Rights Office. And I'm going to be going over the Title VI responsibilities under Federal Highway Administration and Federal Transit Administration. So this is an excerpt of the Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, which states that no person in the United States shall, on the ground of race, color, or national origin, be excluded from participation in, be denied the benefits of, or be subjected to discrimination under any program or activity receiving federal financial assistance. So the first highlighted word is person, and which is to highlight that the Civil Rights Act is applicable to all people, regardless of citizenship status. The next three highlighted words are race, color, and national origin, which are the three bases that are covered under Title VI. And then the next set of highlighted words is any program or activity, which is to highlight that these rights are applicable to any program or activity that receives federal financial assistance. And then, so this next slide, another important law regarding Title VI is the Civil Rights Restoration Act of 1987. The Civil Rights Restoration Act of 1987 expanded the civil rights protections to be agency-wide, meaning that even if one federal dollar is received by the agency, then all of the agency's programs or activities or projects need to ensure Title VI. However, for the purposes of ADOT Civil Rights Office compliance oversight, our compliance oversight is only with the Federal Highway Administration programs, as well as the Federal Transit Administration programs. What does Title VI ensure? Title VI ensures that no person will be denied a service or benefit or the benefit of that service because of their race, color, and national origin. Title VI ensures that a service or benefit will not be provided differently based on a person's race, color, and national origin. And Title VI ensures that the enjoyment or privilege of a service or benefit will not be restricted based on a person's race, color, or national origin. The picture that we see here on the right is supposed to highlight equality versus equity. And so in the equality, we see the same, size stools versus the equity, they're different size stools, but the accessibility to the services or the tools in this scenario are the same. So everyone does have access to it, but it's not being provided perhaps in the same way. But equity is what Title VI is striving to ensure, is that everyone has equal accessibility to the projects, programs, or services. So this is connecting the dots. So these are all of the elements that are included in the Title VI implementation plan. All of these elements are included in the simple Title VI plan. And we like to show them as connecting dots because to show the relationship between the elements, data collection also goes with program area reviews, all of the different elements within the plan intersect in some way. However, each element should have its own process, its own standard operating procedure individually. And that's already included inside the plan. So the Title VI implementation plan, we consider it a living document. Its processes and procedures are updated and changed in the agency. As they're updated and changed in the agency, we expect them to be updated and changed as well in the implementation plan. Annual submittals include the 2 reports, which are the Title VI implementation plan and the goals and accomplishment report. And within those plans, assurances need to be signed annually, and the plan needs to be approved annually as well through the board. For public involvement, the important phrase to remember really is meaningful engagement, to not only consider the efforts that have been made to engage the public, but have the fruits of those efforts provided meaningful engagement. Specifically as well to the environmental justice populations, which are low income and minority populations. And so how does Title VI, environmental justice and limited English proficiency? And limited English proficiency falls under the national origin for Title VI, which is that regardless of the language you speak, you should still have access to the services and accessibility, just as if you speak English versus not speaking English, you should still have access to the services. And so the way it can look when we're talking about public involvement with limited English proficiency is providing the notices in multiple languages, especially if languages have been identified in the project area. For environmental justice with public involvement, it's making the meetings accessible perhaps in more than one way, even if they're virtual, not just having like a phone accessibility option as well as internet access in case someone doesn't have internet access. And also being cognizant of meeting times and locations when in person. And for Title VI, it's always just informing the public of what their rights are, and that could be done through the notice to the public, as well as how you provide your public meeting information. And so that's it as far as the slides go. If there's any other questions, this is our contact information for the ADOT Civil Rights Office. Again, my name is Joanna Lucero. I work directly with all of the COGS and the MPOs with Title VI. So any questions, feel free. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Joanna. Anything else for Joanna? All right, with that being said, we'll move on to item 8, review, discussion, and possible action. Approve the fiscal year 2022 Title VI plan, limited English proficiency plan, and public involvement plan. We'll need a motion on this one.
Mr. Chair, this is Board Member Knight. I move to approve.
Yes, can I have a second?
I'll second, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, moving on. Item 9, review, discussion, and possible action to approve the updated lease agreement, enterprise support service agreement, and its agreement with Yavapai County. Vinny?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Just a brief background, and you have all the information in your backup materials. So in our intergovernmental agreement, our IGA, as SIMPO was established, we have an agreement with the local public agencies in the Quad City area and Yavapai County to basically support SIMPO. And the responsibility is it's divided up by a match in order for us to draw down all of our federal funds. And we, again, we're primarily funded through the Federal Transportation Bill, which again comes down through the Federal Highway Administration, Federal Transit Administration, and the responsibilities to the locals is the match. I will summarize this, that your match has been traditionally paid for by your time, the time of your staff. So even though each area has a responsibility, a dollar amount for each year, we are able to document the time of you as elected officials, your staff, and any other people, and that match ends up getting consumed by that. Historically, we have had a services agreement. If I remember right, SIMPO started with the city of Prescott, at some point moved over to the town of Prescott Valley, and then we've been with Yavapai County for the last 10 years or so. We are currently housed, we do currently lease a space from Yavapai County. Along with that lease in your packet, we do have the lease agreement. Along with that, we do have a services agreement. The services agreement spells out how we are, as a SIMPO staff, are able to access the services that Yavapai County offers to the rest of their staff. So things like human resources, ITS, facilities, and so forth, and finance, if I didn't say that already. So what you have in your packet has been reviewed by our legal counsel, has worked out all the details along with the Yavapai County attorney, and that has been recommended onto the Yavapai County Board of Supervisors, and I am recommending it on to you. I will let you know that this item was on the Yavapai County Board of Supervisors agenda this morning, was approved, was reviewed and approved on their end. So it's now on the SIMPO end and to you as a board. And again, it would be my recommendation that you approve the services agreement, the lease agreement, and the lease as spelled out is with a 4-year lease. And I'm happy to answer any questions or comments you might have at this time.
We have any questions for Vinny? It's pretty cut and dry. If we don't, oh,
Yeah, Cal. I did watch the Board of Supervisors meeting this morning, and this was passed unanimously without comment.
yeah, no, I believe, like I said, pretty cut and dry, and it's just part about doing business. So if that's the feeling of the rest of us, can I get a motion?
Mr. Chair, this is Board Member Knight. I move to approve.
Yes, sir. Can I have a second?
Mr. Chairman, I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right. Moving on, ADOT Northwest District Report. Mr. Steinberger, Todd, how are you?
Good, everybody. Good afternoon, everybody. I'll just give a quick update on the widening on SR 69. We're currently reviewing the 95% plans. We've started doing the field work and some of the plan work for the utility clearance. We're doing plan work for the right-of-way clearance. We're tentatively scheduled to advertise that project at the end of May, early June of 2022, and looking to start construction at the end of October, early November of 2022 for that project. Currently on the construction end, out on State Route 89 at Road 1 North, the signal. You'll see early next week, traffic control switched over. They'll be doing work on the west side of State Route 89. And then out at Spring Lane, out on State Route 69, the signal should be up and running, and everything's starting to wrap up and close out on that project. If anybody has any questions, please let me know.
County Community Health Service.
No? Anything else to add, Todd, or is that pretty much it in a nutshell?
That's it. That's it in a nutshell.
Fair enough, sir. I appreciate your time. With that being said, moving on, State Transportation Board Report. Gary, you're up.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Not much to report. We have the Transportation Board meeting, which is virtual. We don't travel in August at all, even with or without COVID. So the meeting will be virtual on Friday of this week. There was only one item on the agenda that had anything to do with Yavapai County, and it was a project in the agenda, item 8A. It's actually in Yavapai and Coconino County because it's I-17. The McGuireville rest area to Flagstaff. It goes from milepost 296.7 to milepost 340, and it is installing ITS infrastructure. The agenda isn't very large as agendas go, and there aren't a lot of projects on this one, but that's the only one that falls in Yavapai County. Thank you, Mr. Chair, unless somebody has a question.
Awesome, sir. Let the record show that Vice Chair Craig Brown has joined the meeting. Welcome, sir. Well, you're just right at the end now. You just came in right at the end of this party. We're moving on now to future items for the agenda. If we don't have anything right now, guys, remember we can always add things up until a day or two before the meeting. Just make sure you get with Allison on that. So, is there anything else we wish to discuss for the good of the order? All right. At this time, we'll show us adjourned. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you all. Have a good afternoon.
Have a great night.
Let's go. Thanks, Vinny.